You have to remove your emotions out of the equation because we're human beings. We're strong emotional creatures. And the problems with our decision-making skill sets are when we engage on high-level emotions, we can get hijacked by a different part of our brain. It's called an amygdala hijack: fight, flight, flinch, freeze. And of course, your hippocampus comes into it. And the thing is, you're still thinking emotionally. If you can step back from your emotions for a second and look at a situation, and then you can assess, is my ego being engaged here? Am I the person that's creating the blockage? There's a famous statement: check your ego at the door.
Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Shahid Durrani. Today we have with us Sean Bacon. Sean is a Canadian Armed Forces veteran with 12 years experience and training in mental toughness, leadership, psychological resilience, and body language. Welcome to our show, Sean.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's great to have you. Great to have you. So 12 years in the Canadian Armed Forces. Did that help with what you do today?
Oh, absolutely. Of course it did.
Yeah.
I think we all have a sense of resiliency, but the military, regardless of what country you're in, has a way of preparing you, conditioning you, training you to run towards gunfire, to jump out of airplanes, to deal with horrible environmental conditions and still be successful. So really, mental toughness is about getting out of your own way and being very consistent and follow through with that consistency. So the military is a huge role in that. Absolutely.
So getting out of your own way, we hear that a lot. So if anybody in the audience would like to understand how they may be getting in their own way, can you outline how someone can assess their own abilities and how they may be getting in their own way?
Yeah. First of all, you have to remove your emotions out of the equation because we're human beings. We're strong emotional creatures. And the problems with our decision-making skill sets are when we engage on high-level emotions, we can get hijacked by a different part of our brain. It's called an amygdala hijack: fight, flight, flinch, freeze. And of course, your hippocampus comes into it. And the thing is, you're thinking emotionally. If you can step back from your emotions for a second and look at a situation, and then you can assess, is my ego being engaged here? Am I the person that's creating the blockage? There's a famous statement: check your ego at the door. And in the military, you'll find certain units, they'll have it even written right above the door: check your ego here, because your ego can and will sometimes get you killed. And we can't afford that. We want confidence. We don't want arrogance. Okay. And when someone's in their own way, sometimes they lack the perspective of knowing they are. What's that old saying? You can't see the forest for the trees. And some of us can see bark.
Yeah.
So if we just take a step back from ourselves, remove the emotions out of it, take a big step back and just look at it cleanly. And it's humbling because you have to come at it from a very humble point of view. Okay. And once you check that ego, you can start looking at it through other people's perspective. Okay. And isn't that interesting? See, if a lot more people actually did that, we'd probably get along a lot better, globally speaking.
Oh, man. 100%. 100%.
Have you ever noticed, and you go to a different country, any country, pick a country anywhere in the world, you will take more effort to get to know and understand someone who cannot speak your language versus, if I met someone downtown Toronto, would I take as much effort? Okay. So that's a great way to understand if you're in your own way. How is a person perceiving you? When you're dealing with a conflict, what's your participation in that conflict? The only way you can do that is to slow things down. Take a big step back.
Slow things down. You had a good point about emotions. Emotions can do a number on you. And especially in those kind of situations, they happen so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
How could someone become self-aware in a situation like that to see their side and how they're participating in that, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it does, when you're in a conflict,
it's just, you
accelerate. Your brain accelerates first. And when that happens, it tells your body to accelerate. So it starts preparing your body for combat. It starts preparing your body for conflict or survival. It depends on the situation. And sometimes they're all three at the same time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we have this saying when you teach smooth is fast. You see a lot of different military people saying this phrase, or law enforcement, slow is smooth is fast. And there's a value in that statement. When you slow things down, when you can take a deep breath, when you can get that time and distance, and you can be smooth about what you're doing, you're actually quite quick. You don't realize how fast you are.
So
but
true.
The problem is we get so accelerated. Sometimes we don't realize we're moving at that speed. And then, of course, what's that famous thing that tells the worst thing you can tell anyone that's in an accelerated state? Calm down.
Calm down.
Never in the history of the words calm down is it ever
it's not going to work.
It's never going to work.
Yeah.
Just try it with your spouse and see what happens.
Yeah, true.
So it's best to say, hey, let's just take a breath. Let's step back for a second. Let's just breathe for a second. And it's interesting when you say that because you'll catch people going,
count backwards, right?
Anything, or even random numbers. You want to see, especially if someone's in an anxiety state, give them 5 or 6 random numbers to repeat back to you. And then give them another and another. And within 3, they're starting to calm down. Because their brain can't do both functions.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
so that's a great way to do it. Slow is smooth is fast.
Yeah.
Slow
That's a
things
good
down.
point. My late mentor famously used to say, calmness creates. And that was something that got my attention right in the beginning because I was not calm at all. I was not calm. And when he said calmness creates, I go, wait a minute, there's something in this that got me intrigued. And it's so true. Some people think that if you're calming things down, you're going to be lazy, you're going to slow things down. But man, you're so much more productive, creative, and even influential in your own life when you become calm.
Yeah, it's true. We are emotional creatures. And that's, I think, the thing we have to accept. We're going to get angry. And then we have this angst right now. It's not okay to be angry. No, it's okay to be angry. As a matter of fact, Colin Powell, someone I deeply respect, God rest his soul, I used to say, it's okay to be angry. Get angry and then get through it. He never once said get over it, get around it. He said get through it. That's real. There's a ton of talks these days about emotional awareness or emotional intelligence. Real emotional intelligence is understanding your own emotional sets before you start trying to understand others.
Yes.
Because once you understand you can actually say, I'm angry. Okay, what am I? That's my responsibility. That's
why
not
am I?
Exactly. It's not you are making me angry. I'm angry.
No. Yeah.
So
no, it's a good point.
Or I'm sad. Okay, you're sad. Now what?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a good point because there's some people that stay away from negativity in a way, but really it's a law of polarity. You have to have negativity. You have to have positivity. You don't run away from it. You just become aware of it. You're just aware of the negative. You don't energize the negative, but you can be aware of it. Something negative happens in your life. It is what it is. You just go through it. And it's very similar in that concept.
Also, where's the self-responsibility? What am I going to do with it? Now that I understand why I'm angry, what am I going to do with it? See, right now, there's a whole societal bias with young people, and it's about there's high expectation, there's excuses, there's blame. That's not their fault. That's our fault. We allowed that. We created that. However, at the end of the day, have we taught our young people to accept responsibility that I'm angry? Now, what am I going to do with it? Not you, not someone else, not make an excuse, not assign blame. What am I going to do with that emotion? Or, okay, I'm depressed. Okay, great. You're sad. Great. What are we going to do with it? Okay, you're excited. Great. What are we going to do with it? See? Or this one's my favorite. You're offended. Great. What are you going to do with it? Okay.
Yeah.
We don't take personal responsibility of our emotions. And I think that's the next level. If you want to talk about mental toughness, look yourself in the mirror, okay, and do a self-assessment of who you are as a person. Do you take ownership of your own emotional state? Do you try to understand people's emotional state?
So what we're talking about here in a nutshell is self-awareness at the end of the day,
Oh yeah,
Sean?
absolutely. And self-responsibility.
Yeah. So self-awareness would lead into the responsibility. Because if you're aware of it, you need to be responsible. What are you going to do with that information once you're aware,
Yeah.
right?
There's some that will not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that happens.
So they'll just be aware and then
and that's it.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah, there's some people that
Yeah.
look, there have been days I've not had good days, and I know 100% I've been an absolute asshole. Okay.
Yeah.
And there have been times I went, yeah, I got to take ownership of that. I got to make it right. See, and there's in responsibility, there's a piece of action that needs to happen. How do you make it right?
Yes.
Here's one thing I did with my daughter when she was a teenager. My daughter's now 28, and I used to say to her as a teenager, she'd come to say, open dialogue. She could tell me anything she did wrong. Okay, great. She'd tell me a thing she failed at or something she did. I said, okay, now what are you going to do to make it right? That was the first question. I didn't say, how are you going to take responsibility? I didn't say, how are you going to be accountable? Didn't use any big word. How are you going to make it right? A good person needs to make it right. What are you going to do about it? The next question is, what would you do differently? And now that creative process, back to calm is creative. I love that, by the way. I think that's brilliant. So now where's that creativity of, okay, so not only do I got to make it right, how can I change it for the future? And you know something? Because of that, it opened the dialogue. There was never any blame. There was this constant dialogue of, hey, what are you going to do about it? I'll give you some suggestions if you want, but it's really up to you. So that's been, and that's also how I coach. When I coach executives or leaders, great. Something went wrong. No problem. Actually, it's a good thing. Failure is actually necessary. So what are you going to do about it? We can feel sorry for ourselves. We can get angry. We can get frustrated. But what are we going to do about it?
What is the most common aspect of coaching a leader that you found that they need help in?
Right back to the beginning of this podcast, getting out of their own way.
Yeah.
So honest
true,
to God.
Right?
Honest to God. Yeah. Without an exception, actually.
So true. Yeah.
Without an exception, every leader I've worked with. I have to. I self-assess every day. I don't always get it right. But here's the fun part. On this path in life to learn. Okay. And if you're not learning, then you're wasting time. And time doesn't stop. So every day if something goes wrong, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a moment of learning. What are you going to do with it? You can either feel sorry for yourself, or, okay, what can I change? What can I change? What can I do? And you see these great people that inspire us because of the changes they made, because of the shifts they created.
Of course, the inner shifts.
Yeah, exactly. Like you look at Goggins. Okay, now Goggins is not everyone's brand of vodka. He's very extreme, but he went from this guy that was big and overweight to a tier 1 special forces operator, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Okay. And then an ultra marathoner and an ultra cyclist and a ultra triathlon. Like the guy's a beast, but he went from this state of self-loathing to the other extreme. And there's so many examples.
It's all mindset.
Just one example. There it is. It's exactly that. And mental toughness is a mindset. You can be very vulnerable. And by the way, you need to be in order to be courageous. You can't be courageous without being vulnerable.
No.
But you can be incredibly vulnerable and mentally tough. Okay.
It's not a weakness.
It's not a weakness. The most mentally tough people are the people that need to be strong. You go to a third world country and you can see it clearly because they need to be strong. Whereas you stay around here in Canada or United States or parts of Europe where life is very good, we tend to get emotionally compromised because something didn't go our way. Okay. Now for us, mental toughness is a want, and we have to gear back to that need. Where do we need to be mentally resilient, mentally tough? Where's that spot where we have to take that one extra step more that we normally wouldn't take?
And mental toughness, Sean, would you say that it is part of an individual's inner self-image as well, meaning how they perceive themselves, how they see themselves, how they self-identify.
Yeah.
Does that have a lot to do with it as well? For example, if someone started to self-identify as having mental toughness, would all the other pieces of the puzzle start falling into place?
Potentially. It all depends on their internal process because we're all different. And it's interesting how you said self-identify as mentally tough. I find that mental toughness is more of a toolbox than something I am. It's something I have to exercise. I'm not always fit. I don't identify as physically
Just training
strong.
based.
Right. But yet I train for physical strength. And I also train my mind for mental strength. The thing is, when you do start to realize how strong you are, how mentally resilient you are, it changes the way you perceive things, how you deal with change, how you attack things that make you uncomfortable. And
So it'll lead you into training, that when you have that self-image, that listen, I feel that I have mental toughness, they will take steps to make that puzzle look good.
Yes, but you also have to see again. Now let's go back to mindset for just a second.
Yeah.
The choice. Once your mind makes it, commits, and there's the word, commits to a choice.
Decision.
Everything gears. Your body changes gears. Your mindset changes gears. Everything clicks. But if you half-ass a choice, forget it. It's not going to happen. Your brain won't click. Your body won't click. You won't do anything because you didn't commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
And I've talked to many. I'm very privileged to be able to work with champions and to work as a mental performance coach with them and to see their journey. And when you watch them commit to a choice, my God, it's tangible. You can actually see the physical output. But when they half-ass a choice, you can actually see them you can just see them have the worst training day of their life and then wonder what the hell happened. And I can always go back to, well, where was your choice?
Yeah.
You can make choice, and that's just it. Please.
Yeah. And that choice, that decision, that commitment, going all the way, not half-assing it, going all the way. I believe if they have that self-identification as having mental toughness, when they make that commitment to make those changes, I feel that it will come with a lot more power as well, because their subconscious believes that they already are someone that has that toughness.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I once was working with a soccer academy, and a young lady, and we're talking about, I don't know, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, girls soccer team, long time ago. This is, I don't know, got to be 12 years ago now, maybe more. Anyway, there's this young lady that showed up. She wasn't dressed properly. I guess she forgot it was the first day of soccer. The other girls were making fun of her, and she was in tears. And I was making these girls leopard crawl, so body crawl across the pitch. And the reason I make them do that, it's a military thing, obviously, to crawl.
Yeah.
But it's physically exhausting. And I wanted them to be uncomfortable. I wanted them to push their brains by doing something very uncomfortable. This young lady was in the last position, and she's in tears. Walk up, whisper to her, come back to the coach. And all of a sudden, she just takes off. She's just, boom, she gets to the front, and she beats them all back. And the coach said, what the hell did you say to her? And I said, it's okay to cry, but don't you dare stop. And she just took it.
Awesome.
And, after that, her call sign was alpha.
Baby.
It's mindset. And she owned that. She owned the pitch. She was a great performer. She's done great things in life. I'm very proud of her. I gave her the nickname Alpha because she took alpha. And that's every human being has that capacity, but we tend, because of our emotion, we stop.
Yes. Get in our own way.
We get in our own, we stop and get angry.
Yeah.
Or we even stop and get happy. Hey, I'm happy. Stop. No, be happy. Keep going.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that calmness creates part is when you start calming things down, becoming self-aware, being more aware of your breathing, being more aware of your presence in the moment, and just just relax a little bit. Life doesn't have to be too serious. You just take a step back.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love that. I love that. And then from there, when those opportunities come, you can blow others out of the water in a way, because you're coming with that much force. So you said that to her, and that immediately created such a boost in her body, like in her physical presence, because that it was conscious mind. She heard what you said. She subconsciously felt it, and she just exploded into action. You'll hear stories about people lifting cars off of people. Like, all of a sudden they get this incredible amount of strength. And I feel like I agree with you. Every single human being has these powers, these strengths, these capabilities, this potential. But like you said, we get in our own way because we've been conditioned through our environment to believe that there's everything is a limit. We have to be careful about everything. And that unfortunately is holding humanity back, because I think if you remove that, I would love to see where we could take our existence.
I often tell people, like, I have 12 commandments of mental toughness, and one of them is fail harder. And we do not embrace failure. Yeah. Because we see failure as we're going to look bad. That's that we're getting in our own way. Ego's there, right? So we'll often quit before we fail. And you don't choose to fail, but you will choose to quit. So you can get everything right and fail. The beautiful thing about failure is if your ego's not a part of the equation, we can look at that failure openly and embrace it. I do one thing every year that makes me deeply uncomfortable. And primarily because I need to know, it's like a muscle, I need to exercise my mindset. I can't get complacent with my mindset. So I pick one thing that makes me uncomfortable every year, and I go at it. And sometimes I have absolutely, abjectly failed. But guess what? I embraced that attempt. I chose to be uncomfortable. I chose to fail. And in each of those, whether I was successful or I failed, the lessons, the amount of growth that comes with it is absolutely fantastic. How often do we actually celebrate our failures as a learning opportunity?
Yeah. And it's so important. I heard someone say once that failure is success tax. We need to pay. We get comfortable without being uncomfortable, not worrying about what other people think. Take your power back and just go and do it, Nike says.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about that, I mean, that great speech of it's the person in the arena that matters most. Not the that dare to fail greatly, and not those timid, cold souls that know neither success nor defeat. And it's the end of the day. If you want to talk about mental toughness, is a choice you make every single day. And sometimes that choice you make is to live another day. Sometimes it's to take another step. Sometimes it's to maybe help somebody. Maybe it's to listen to a conversation you really don't like. Yeah. When was the last time you had intellectual discourse with a person that you completely disagree with, but you just had a conversation?
You had a conversation, yes.
Regardless of the fact you absolutely did not like the subject matter.
Or the intellectual bully. If you get bullied on that arena.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like, but that's about creating that toughness within. Man, Sean, it was great speaking to you today. It was wonderful having you on the show. Great conversation. I had a lot of fun, and hopefully we can share this info with more people, because people are dealing with a lot of different types of struggles within. And the more of us out there creating this impact or adding this impact in people's lives can make a big difference, not just for them, but their offsprings even later on, because it has a ripple effect. So appreciate your time. Keep in touch. And if you ever want to come back on the show, please let us know.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here. Have an amazing day.
You too.